Today at ilovecooking.ie I'm going to make a delicious white chocolate and raspberry mousse. Now there's two parts to this recipe. The first thing is to make the raspberry coulis. I've got some frozen raspberries here and some icing sugar. So all you do is tip the icing sugar in on the raspberries and you mash them together. If you're using fresh raspberries, you need to wait till the raspberries sort of ooze a little bit of liquid, but since these are frozen ones, they've already begun to bleed. So once it's mixed, we're going to get our blender or a hand blender and we're going to blitz them. So once they're totally blitzed, we're going to pass them through a sieve to remove all the little seeds. So you can see here I have a sieve, a round bottom sieve and a round bottom ladle. So scoop all of that out. There we go. So the quickest way to do this, to pass the raspberries through the sieve, is to use round on round. Now if you use just a teaspoon or a dessert spoon, something, you'll be here all day. So the fastest way is the ladle. And you can see all the pith there catching in the bottom of the... Okay, so that's done. And that's our raspberry coulis. Now if you wanted, you could add a little bit of alcohol to this. Maybe a touch of Cointreau would be nice. Or maybe a little snippet of brandy. And then I'm going to add it to the glasses. So pour it in, don't shake. Don't dirty the glass and catch the drip. Now you're probably going to make two because it'd be terrible. It'd be very sad if you're eating this on your own. And make sure that the levels are exactly the same because they'll be fighting if someone gets more than the other. Okay, so that's perfect. We want to set those to one side. Okay. Now this is leaf gelatine, okay, and I've got 1.5 leaves. And the first thing you have to do before you use the gelatine is to soften it or dissolve it in some cold water. So I'm just going to half it so it fits in my bowl. We'll top it up. Now that might take 2 or 3 minutes or not even, but while that's softening, what I'm going to do is infuse the milk with a little bit of vanilla. So I've got my milk here. And then I have a vanilla pod. So with the vanilla pod, it's really important that you get all the seeds from the pod. So just going to score it down the center, like so. Open it out, and then using the back of the knife, okay, scrape all the seeds, every little bit. So the seeds are in the pod or the bean, and you open it out like that, okay. We're actually going to put the bean in here as well. Sometimes though, if it's not required in a recipe, you could put that into a jar of sugar and you've got a lovely flavour of vanilla sugar. Now if you didn't want to use vanilla, or if you didn't have vanilla, you could also maybe substitute the vanilla with a little bit of orange or lemon zest, or you could use even cinnamon stick. That would be very nice. Now when that is nice and hot, we're going to let it sit for about 10 minutes so it infuses. The main ingredient of this lovely white chocolate mousse is white chocolate. So here we have the white chocolate, and I have it in a metal bowl, and I have it really finely chopped. And the reason why it's really finely chopped is so that when we add the hot milk to it, that it'll melt nice and quickly. So the milk has infused for 10 minutes and it's taken on all the flavour of the vanilla. So now I'm going to put it back on the heat to get it nice and hot, and just take out the vanilla bean itself. Okay. And we're going to add the hot milk to the chocolate. So you can see here the chocolate is really finely chopped. That's really important so that melts nice and quickly. Now that the vanilla has infused, you're going to put it back on the heat and get it nice and hot. And be ready, have your whisk to stir. Now it's important that you just add about 3/4 of the milk. You want to save a little bit of the milk. So just come up to the boil. So we'll pour it in and just hold back about 1/4 of that milk. And now you can see the chocolate has almost disappeared. Okay, so the chocolate has melted. That's perfect. Okay, set that aside for the moment. And now back to our gelatine. So you can see the gelatine, look, it almost looks like seaweed. It's lovely and gelatinous. So we squeeze that dry. I'll get the excess moisture off it. And then we're going to add that to the hot milk here. Okay, and you can see it's going to disintegrate in no time. And it's gone, disappeared. So now the gelatine has melted, we can add it back into the chocolate. Great, and just stir that up. Now, the last ingredient that we're going to add to the chocolate is the cream. At the moment, this is quite warm, so we can't add cream to it'll melt, okay? And also, if your cream is very cold, what it'll do is it'll activate the gelatine and it'll get it to start setting. So we want this to cool down, and we want to, before we add our whipped cream. So once the chocolate mixture has cooled down, make sure it's actually quite cool because we're going to add the cream next. We're going to whip the cream. So I've got my cream here in a nice large bowl. The bigger the bowl, the better. And I'm going to, this is a double cream, so it's really important to be careful not to over whip the cream. And all we want is lightly whipped or semi-whipped cream. So that means cream that's going to hold its weight, just like this. So now I'm going to add this cream to the white chocolate mixture. Scoop it all in. The best tool to get the cream into the bowl is a spatula, which I have here. And if you know how to use a spatula correctly, it means you'll have less washing up to do, so get it all in. There we go. And we're going to whisk the cream into the white chocolate to make sure it's totally incorporated. On a low speed, we don't want to encourage too much air. And that's it. Now the mousse is actually made, it just has to set. So now the mousse is actually set, so you can see the consistency is less runny. So it's just perfect time to add it to our glasses. And I'm going to ladle it in and just be nice and careful about this, catch the drip. Okay. And you can see I just brought the ladle nice and low to the raspberry, trying to avoid the mousse sinking into the raspberry. And the next step is to put them into the fridge. And it's a really good idea to actually cling film the tray, or actually the individual glasses, so that when you place them in the fridge, they're not going to absorb any other flavours that are in the fridge. So I've just taken the mousse out of the fridge and it's perfectly set. So before we serve it, just going to garnish it. I've got some fresh raspberries here. So you can go for one, or you can do a few extra. So I think we might just put on a few more. I've got a little bit of white chocolate that I grated just using a peeler. Lashings. And a nice little mint leaf. And there it is, our sinful but delicious white chocolate mousse at raspberry-coulis. Please come back and check in at ilovecooking.ie for more delicious and exciting recipes just like this.